Hey there, what's up, good people? Just wanted to come on and just talk about a few things. I was having a discussion with some people, and we was going over some things, and had a lot of people asking a lot of questions about like what have I been studying, where did I find some certain sources from, about religion, about church history, about all these things. So we were going over some things. So we were talking about certain little things, but I said, first and foremost, there's always a mindset that people have that we don't always think alike, do things alike. Sometimes we're I call it being churchanized, like we learned in the church, we learned from a grandmother, we learned from a mama, and we keep doing the same things over and over again. And we look at our community today, we look at our circumstances today and wonder why we remain the same all the time. We wonder why things haven't changed. We wonder why all the people that we've been dealing with are still in the same situation. We wonder why the prosperity gospel ain't working. Because how can you have a prophecy and you say something to a whole church saying you're going to be rich, you're going to be a millionaire, you're going to get blessed, you're going to get a car, you're going to have houses and millions of dollars and this, that, and the other. How does that gospel apply to 500 people in the church? The same prophecy applies to everybody in the church. So there must be something wrong with the theology or something that's wrong with the mindset that we're going through or that we understand. And certain people are called for this time, that we have prophets or we have educators that are still speaking the true word or true knowledge of the gospel or the true knowledge of doctrine. And we get mixed up in certain theologies because we learn from certain people. And I would say certain things from schools of theology, seminary. We learn from pastors that grew up in theology or they grew up in the religious side of churchianism or the religious side of church. So, we keep asking ourselves, why hasn't our communities changed? Why hasn't our families changed? Why haven't I got that 100-fold blessing yet that I sowed a seed every year on New Year's, or I sold my first fruits every year? Why ain't I get that 100-fold blessing yet? Why ain't the windows of heaven opening up for me? You know what I'm saying? We look at these things and wonder why, the windows of heaven haven't opened up for us yet. And he said, you pour me out a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive. That he opened up the windows of heaven and rebuke the devourer for your sake, right? Seems like the devourer is coming and whooping your butt. The devourer is kicking your behind. Why? Seems like that window of heaven is closed. Why? So there's always a standard that God always talks about. And I always talk about the major and minor prophets. A lot of times I talk about the minor prophets because they came in, they had a distinct call that they were supposed to do, and then they was up out of here. It was real fast. God gave them a distinct word. Go tell my people this and don't say nothing else and get up out of here. And a lot of the prophets, they overlapped each other's lives. So when you start figuring out the chronological order of certain things, you'll start understanding how this thing is happening. And even up until today, even up until right now, we can understand what's going on. So we have to get to the, to the point of the knowledge of the truth. It says our people perish for the lack of knowledge. So what knowledge have we been gaining for the past 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years? And our communities are still the same. We're in the same place. We still voting Democrat. We still hating Republicans. We still voting Republicans. We still hating this person. We're still doing this. We're still voting red, blue, and we're still doing all these things. And nothing has changed yet. Nothing. And then we wonder why. See, a lot of things with me, I really don't care. I do care what people say or what people think about me, but it doesn't affect the call that I have on my life. It says, make your calling and election sure. That means know what you're supposed to do. Know what you're called to do. Know what grace God has given you to do what you're supposed to do. Are you supposed to lead men? Are you supposed to lead women? Are you supposed to lead the youth? Are you supposed to pastor? Are you supposed to be an overseer? Are you supposed to be a teacher? Are you supposed to do this? Are you supposed to do that? What is your calling? Are you supposed to be a community leader? Are you just supposed to be just someone that helps every now and then? Are you supposed to be an undergirder? What's your job? What did God call you to do? So we get to the point to where we don't understand these things because it says study to show yourself approved, a workman, not being ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Studying and studying unto God, not man, not the precepts of man. And we don't understand certain things. We don't understand these things. So we're going to go to Ezekiel 20, chapter 20, 45 and 49. Always talk about these major and minor prophets, always, because they had a distinct calling on their life. And a lot of times they were afraid. And the first thing God said, he says, don't worry about what they say. Don't look at their faces. Don't worry about what they can do to you. But you say exactly what I tell you to say. And you do exactly what I tell you to do. Don't worry about what people are going to say about you. I would say that's one of my gifts that I have. I don't care. People talk about me. People say things. People laugh at me. People say I'm off the rails. People say I'm unorthodox. People say I'm this and I'm that. But it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change who I am. And this is the reason why I always say, stop making people stick your round self into a square peg. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same thing, and wonder why our communities are the way they are, and wonder why these things are the way they are. I'm just tired of a lot of these things when we call religion and we call religiosity. It's the same thing over and over again, and expecting the same thing, and wonder why our people are still getting shot in the street. Why are we still got gang members that we can't deliver? Well, we got prostitutes on the street that we can't deliver. Well, we just can't grab them and wonder why we lay hands on somebody and they're still a crack addict. And everybody in the church ain't a millionaire. But you prophesied over the new year that everybody was going to be a millionaire last year. Now you're prophesying again this year that they're going to be a millionaire and they're going to have a house. And this is their year. This is my year. Give me more in 2024. This blessing's for me in 2023. All these things, we got these rhymes and these things that we doing, and it's not changing. But we wonder why. It's the mindset. It says we are renewed by the renewing of our mind. How does a poor person become rich? They change their way of thinking before they change their wallet, before they change their surroundings. But we worried about what kind of car we driving, and not investing and not grabbing nothing and not doing anything. I'm not saying that it's not hard out here and that everybody can throw their money in investments and Bitcoin and stocks but I am saying we have to start thinking different. Where's the nest egg? Where do we start putting things away to prepare ourselves if something happens? If I get sick, if I die, if someone dies, if something happens, where does this thing happen and where does it start changing? We got to start looking at this thing a lot different. A lot different. A lot different. And if we're supposed to be the leaders and the teachers of our community, if I'm supposed to be teaching these young men how to be men, if I'm supposed to be teaching these wayward men and grabbing them off the street and teaching them how to be fathers and how to be men and how to be husbands and not an invalid. If the women are supposed to teach the younger women not to be all independent and I'm doing what I feel like doing and this, that, and the other, but how to be chaste and to love their own husband. And then wonder why our community is the way it is, but 80% of our children are born out of wedlock. 80%. 80%. And one out of four black women get married under the age of 30. And then the numbers go down as the age goes up. Why? It's a reason why these things are happening, because we're looking at society and trying to pattern our lives at society. But it says we are the ecclesia, the called out ones. We're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. Supposed to be here, just not hearers of the word, but doers of the word. Yet we deceive ourselves. It's a reason why our communities are still the way they are. Same thing over and over again, but expecting something different. And then when somebody does something, oh, you shouldn't judge that person, or you shouldn't do this, or, God will deal with him. Yes, that is true. But how do I protect my family? How do I protect the church? How do I protect the believers and not sour the bad apples, the good apples, with the one bad apple that's spoiled? How do I not put that one piece of rotten fruit in with the good fruit that's going to spoil the rest of the fruit? How do I do that? So I'm not supposed to call it out. So this is the problem that we have. Ezekiel 20, 45 and 49, the forest in the south. See, this is the mindset. Check these words out that I'm going to bring out tonight and listen to what I'm about to say tonight. Check this stuff out. Ezekiel 20, 45. The parable of the forest in the south. Remember this word forest in the south, in the north, and these words that I'm going to bring out. It says, moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me saying, this is Ezekiel, the word of the Lord came to Ezekiel saying this, son of man, set thy face towards the south and drop thy word. That means he's on high right now. That means he's up above, looking down, has a bird's eye view of what's going on, of the people, and how is this thing transpiring? He's able to see everything from a different perspective than everybody down on ground level. That's why the Lord said, I got you. Drop thy word from on high. So he's going to position you and put you in a place of on high. He's going to position you and put you in a place to where that, not saying that everyone's going to be prominent, but he's going to put you in a position to where you can be used by him, to where your calling and your election will be sure. That everything what you're supposed to be doing in God, that your purpose is going to be fulfilled in God. He's going to put you in that position. And it ain't about buying a house and buying a car and getting blessed and having $1 million and all these other things. Sometimes he'll put you in a community where you're able to talk to the people on the street, where you're able to talk to the young ladies and saying, sis, this ain't the way to go. My brother, this ain't the way to go. So these are the things that we get to, that we got to get to. He says, drop thy word towards the south and prophesy. Prophesy doesn't always mean to speak the future or say something in the future. Sometimes prophesy means to preach. It means to preach. And in other texts, that prophesy is a capital P. That means speak the word of the Lord. Speak what God has told you. So it's a capital P. But a lot of times prophesy isn't always foretelling the future. Now, a lot of times the Lord warns the prophet and tells the prophet, warn my people, if they don't obey or do these things, this is going to happen. But if they obey and do these things, they'll be blessed. So there's a twofold thing when the Lord comes to the prophet of God, the true prophet of God, not the prophet of God that you profited and selling oil and selling rags and come up and sow a seed and send this into stand in this line and no, you got to put a seed on it. Come on, man. When did you ever see that in the Bible? When did you ever see that in the Bible? We got to start looking at precepts and stop looking at the precepts of men, but start looking at the order and the statistics of what God has put in the word of God, that he put in the Bible. We have to start looking at that because we're listening to men all the time and we're not reading for ourselves. Got to start reading for ourselves. Got to start seeing this stuff. So this is the reason. Drop thy word against and prophesy against the forest in the south. It says prophesy against the forest of the south field and say to the forest of the south, hear the word of the Lord. See? The words that he's telling the prophet to speak. Say what I'm about to tell you. Ezekiel is telling the forest, telling the people, telling the Israelites, telling his people, the Lord's people, hear the word of the Lord. Thus said the Lord God, behold, that means listen, open your ears, attention, herald, heart. Listen. This is what it's saying. Behold, I will kindle a fire in you. The Lord is going to kindle a fire in you. This is the Lord saying this. I will kindle a fire in you, and it shall devour every green tree. Forest in the south. And I'm going to tell you who this forest is. And I'm going to tell you what the south means. Every green tree in thee, and every dry tree. Just because you a tree and you standing tall, don't mean you bearing fruit. Don't mean that you living in your purpose. Don't mean that you're walking in the newness of life. Don't mean that you're being obedient and doing what God is telling you to do. That's not just because you a tree and you in the forest. Because we're going to figure out what this forest is. Going to devour every green tree. And just because you green don't mean you bearing fruit. Doesn't mean that. Every dry tree, the flaming flame shall not be quenched, and all faces from the south to the north shall be burned therein. You're going to burn it all up. Because a lot of times we built these things. We made these altars. And that's not the altar of God. We made these other things God and more important. But it wasn't for God. It wasn't for everybody else. It was for you. You did that because it was important to you. But what wasn't the call that God put on your life? Wasn't the call he put on your life. So he's going to burn all that up. And all flesh shall see that I have kindled it. That the Lord did this. He did this. It says he makes all things good and evil. It says the Lord created evil. If you don't know what evil is, we don't know what good is. He created calamity. He created storms. He created hurricanes. He did this. He says, I will kindle the fire, and it shall not be quenched. Then I said, the Lord, say of me. Why does he speak in parables? Why? Everybody's saying back to Ezekiel, why are you speaking in parables? I ain't understand a word you just said. That's why it says study to show yourself approved unto God. A workman, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's not a shame, because he gave everything he got to divide this word. He studied with all of his heart, all of his soul, all of his mind, all of his strength. This is the reason why he's not ashamed. And he comes to a conclusion. Now, Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel means God strengthens. How many times that if we speaking into somebody's life, do we strengthen somebody? That we encourage somebody? Ezekiel means God strengthens. And he was a prophet and a priest at this point in time. He was a prophet in the time when his people were confused. Why do we all look confused today? Did T.D. Jakes do it? Didn't he do it? Is Creflo Dollar telling the truth, or is he telling the truth? Are we supposed to be doing this, or are we not supposed to be doing this? Is this a prophet of God, or is he not a prophet of God? Is that true religion, or is that not true religion? Are we supposed to be doing this, or are we not supposed to be doing this? Why are we so confused? And it's just not a distinct path that we're supposed to be following. Why? Why is the church so confused today? Why is everybody out of order today? Why are we singing these secular songs in the church today? Why does every church look like a club? Because we're trying to draw everybody in, but not using the anointing of God that God put on your heart, that God put inside of you. The word is good enough. Your anointing is good enough. The fire that he put inside of you is good enough. You don't need no lights, cameras, action, and the flashing lights and all this other stuff. You don't need all that. I'm not saying it's wrong to do that. But if that's your draw, and you're trying to make it look like something, and it's not directing itself back to who God is, and he's not in the forefront, something wrong. And we need all these gimmicks to get people in church, and then wonder why this is the most lowest attendance in history of churches. After COVID, things changed. People didn't come back to church. They did not come back to church. A lot of these churches closed. Things was not the status quo after COVID. So he was a prophet of God, and his people were confused at the time that he was a prophet and a priest. That means Ezekiel was a Levite. That means he took care of the house of God, and he did sacrifices, and he was ordained to sacrifice and do these things for sin and these things. But he was also a prophet. But he was a prophet at the time that they were confused, caught in between the ways of Egypt. See, this is the time when they first came out of captivity, and everybody didn't go back to Jerusalem, and everybody wasn't back on their homeland again. So they were still in foreign lands and still doing certain things. So they still had the mindset of the people that captured them. Remember, Egypt means bound, or means slavery, or means you're still in chains. It means captivity. So they were still caught in the mindset of captivity, of slavery. Everybody called this Black History Month, but we still caught in slavery. We still caught in the same thing, blaming the white man for this, blaming the police for that, blaming everybody for that. But we're not looking at our own self, because we blasting Cardi B in the car. We blasting Sexy Red in the car. We blasted all these people in the car and wonder why our communities are the way they are and our daughters are growing up the way they're growing up. So they're still caught in the ways of Egypt and in Babylon and in religion. Still caught the same way. Babylon is the world systems. It's the government. It's politics. It's the same thing. Things have not changed since Babylon. So they're still caught in captivity in the mindset, and now they're still stuck in the ways and still doing the things that they were doing in Babylon. Servicing other gods, obeying and bowing down to other gods, doing the things that other people do, worshiping other people that they were doing, listening to everybody but God's commandments. And then religion. They didn't know where they was going. They was all over the place. At this point in time, the word was dry and there was no prophet in the land, and all the prophets weren't speaking truth. They were just speaking things just to keep the people happy. So that's why it says they were caught in religion at this point in time. When you look at the history of this chapter and the time frame when they were still in this chapter, you'll understand where they were still caught. Caught in captivity, caught up in a world system, and caught up in world religions, or in false doctrines of the religion that we're supposed to be following. So the South, when it says, Son of man, set your face towards the South. Set your face towards the South. The South means this. It's a dry place and a desert. That means speak my word to the desert. Speak my word to this dry place. Speak my word to this young lady that's not doing right. This man that can't find a job and can't hold down his family, that's running to and fro and that has no stability. Speak my word to these dry places that nothing can grow there. It's a dry place in the desert. Ain't no water in the desert. Ain't no food in the desert. It's extremely hot in the daytime, and then it gets extremely cold at night. There's no cover from the heat. So this is what the South means. When he says, drop your word and turn your face towards the South, it says, turn your face towards a dry place and towards the desert. That's what the South means. So we're supposed to go and speak to these dry places. We're supposed to go speak to people that's not doing right and try to help people out of their situation. But drop your word from a high place and let it go. Don't always worry about what somebody's going to say. Sometimes somebody needs to say, you know what, sister? There's a better way out here. Sometimes people need to hear that. And they're too ashamed to walk up to somebody and speak the truth to them. But you might be the one that can save somebody's life. You might be the one that can encourage them. Not being judgmental, but saying, babe, it's a better way out here. I've done it a certain way and it doesn't work. Listen to me. I'm older now. I'm in my 50s, honey. You still in your 20s. Listen to the older lady, because I've been where you're at right now. It's not going to turn out right for you. It's not going to turn out right. See, we're in the age right now where pretty privilege takes a precedence. These young women out here and these young brothers out here, they're using their muscles to get where they got to go. They're using their looks. Women are using their body. They're getting BBLs and all this other stuff. Lashes as long as broomstick. It's just crazy. And we're worried about the outward appearance, but we're not worried about the heart. We're not worried about the heart. We're not worried about our mind. We're not worried about our soul, which is our mind, our will, and our emotions. We're not worried about none of that. But we sure wear them tight pants. And we can sure wear these tight pants and pull our pants up all up on our crotch so everybody can see the shape of what you look like. That's supposed to be reserved for your man or for your lady. But you showing the world everything. Putting it out there so the world can see. Putting it out there. And then wonder why everything's the same and nothing changes. Drop your word from a high place. That means you beat these things. You were delivered from these things. And now it's time for you to go get somebody. Now it's time for you to go get your younger cousins and your younger friends and family members or your sister that you talk to all the time. Now it's time to go get them. But we just sit back and just watch the train go by. Oh, there she go again. She back out there again. Yeah. What you doing? What are you doing? That's why it says drop your word. Turn your face towards the south. Turn your face towards a dry place. Turn your face towards the desert and speak the word that I'm going to tell you to say. It says drop your word towards the south and prophesy against the forest. Who's this forest? What is a forest? A forest is a whole bunch of trees with everybody else. You got a whole bunch of trees that are glopped together. That's what this forest is. But you a forest in the south that's in the desert. You standing tall and standing on business in a dry place and in the desert. And then you with like-minded people because you with other people. There's other trees out here. So you ain't the only tree in the desert. There's a whole bunch of trees and a whole bunch of people out there the way that you think. Because you think you know everything. This is the mindset. You got it all figured out. He can't tell me nothing. Oh, he think he know everything. You haven't been where I've been. You haven't read certain things that I'm not saying I've read and know everything. I don't. But there's so many people that still have not come to me and still said certain things, saying when I asked them a question, they still haven't answered me. Why? I ain't gonna call you out. We talked. You asked me a question. I gave you an answer. And then I gave you something to go look at. And you never got back to me. And then you wonder why. You're still in the same position that you in. That your people are in the same position that you in. And you leading people. But you know I was telling the truth. That's why you came to me. That's why you came to me. Because you knew what I had was the truth. But once you start going against the grain, they're going to start looking at you the way they look at me. That's why you don't want to change. But that's why God told these prophets, don't look at their faces. Don't worry about what they say. Do what I tell you to do and say what I tell you to say. Turn your face towards the south and drop the word that I put in your mouth. But you worried about what everybody else is going to say. That's why you came to me, Mr. Nicodemus. Why you come to me like that? Because you knew that everybody else ain't thinking the way you thinking. But you standing, you a forest, bro. You a tree. You definitely a tree. You a tree. You standing up. You standing on business. Yes, you are. You a tree. But you in a dry place and you in the desert and you standing with everybody else. You preaching the same thing everybody else is preaching. You doing the same thing all these other churches are doing. And then wonder why you ain't growing. Wonder why you ain't changing no lives in your community. Wonder why ain't nobody joining you. Wonder why nobody's following you. Wonder why you ain't got an impact on nobody. Because you're doing the same thing over and over again, thinking something gonna change. Because you a tree. You just one of hundreds and thousands of trees standing in the forest. And you in a desert, in a dry place, and you ain't getting no nourishment. And you doing the same thing, and you ain't bearing no fruit, so nobody can come to your tree and pick fruit off your tree. But you standing in the desert, though, you a tree. Standing on business, right? You standing tall, right? Keep standing on that. Keep standing on your business. But wonder why you not changing nobody. Wonder why nobody's changing it in your life. Wonder why you not impacting your city. And you in the smack dab middle of the city and wonder why you ain't changing no lives. Wonder why your church is dying. Ain't no new growth in there. Wonder why. Because you will not drop your word. What the word of the Lord is telling you to drop. God is telling you to turn your face towards the south. And the south ain't too far from where you at, because your south is right around the corner from your church. Matter of fact, your church is in the south. A dry desert place. And there's mad trees in there that you can speak to in water, but you refuse to drop your word. Ezekiel 20:45-49. The forest in the south. You refuse to drop your word in the forest in the south. And you wonder why nothing's changing. It says prophesy against the forest in the south. I told you what the south was. It was a dry place. It's a desert. And it's a forest out there. A bunch of trees in the middle of the desert ain't bearing no fruit. Remember, a forest is many trees. And all y'all thinking alike, all y'all standing in the same place, ain't getting no nourishment, fighting for a little bit of drop of water you can get. Drying up in the middle of the desert. All of y'all. Because you're a forest. Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, I will kindle a fire in you. I will kindle a fire in you. The forest means the people set in their ways. They're set in their ways and they stubborn. A tree ain't moving. You in there and you standing still and you not moving. You stubborn. This is what the forest means. It represents stubborn people. It was set up that way by this. This was nefarious government, aka the United Snakes of America. Yes, it is. Why would the slave owners give us a Bible when when it killed us for reading? I have been a Christian. Any fun note? My screen's moving. I'm gonna read it. Where'd it go? Okay. Bible and reading. I have been a Christian for over 60 years until I came into the Engel true knowledge. Find out when Christianity started. More. Can't even see this. And find out when the big problem with our community is they have religion and spirituality and confused. You're 100% right. 100% right. See, getting off of this. See, I don't just talk about the Bible. There's other books that were out there. There's other histories. See, a lot of people don't know how to tie in dispensations. And everybody think they were all slaves that just came over here on ships, or that, everybody was indigenous or this. There's many different facets to this thing. There were many floods. There were many ice ages, and it wasn't that long ago. They changed history. And a lot of people don't want to talk about when you see these mountain ranges that they were giant trees. And then when you start talking about that, because they can't add that into the Bible, they can't add that into their own timeline, whether it's the Bible, whether it's history. They don't know when this happened. Some of these trees went up 6 miles high. They were 5 miles wide. And a lot of people don't know how to tie in history. That's why they're scared to talk about certain things. I ain't scared to talk about it. I'm not scared to talk about it at all, because there's certain things that I've seen and certain things that I've been doing for the past 20 years. And I grew up in religion. I grew up in all these things. And I'm understanding that when you start looking at these things, we start figuring out that something ain't right with the timeline of the Bible. And then nobody wants to start answering these questions because religion and the politics of religion starts to take over. See, and we can't put everything in one basket either. We can't put everything in one dispensation, in one little age period. Because why can some people trace their history back over 20,000 years? Why did they whitewash everything? Why did they turn everything this? Why did they hide who certain people were? Why did they change names in the Bible? Why does this 100-year Bible that I got right here, that's different from the modern Bibles? Why did they change certain things? Why is some books that are in this Bible that they finish up in another book? See, the Bible, when we talk the word and we talk about Bible, that's what they concocted. That's how many books they put in there, or they quote unquote authorized during all these councils that they had. But they don't know who was behind all of these councils? Who was behind all of these things? Who actually authorized these Bibles? The Geneva Bible, the King James Version, the Oxford edition, the Holman Bible, all these different versions. Why did they keep doing these things? Yeah, they had to translate certain things, but there's a lot of other books out there that they didn't put in there. There's a lot of other books that were inspired that has history in there that hides who Satan's seed is and who Eve's seed is. See, we don't want to start talking about these things, because when we start talking about that, then we got to go into other things, because we don't want to talk about the religion part of it and the politics of it and who was these people and why did they marry this thing and why did they change these things up. See, I don't want to go into all of this right now, because this ain't the time to go into it. Why these things are the way they are, a big problem. And this is the whole problem. We can't just dismiss one thing. We have to put it all together. Because why can the Indians trace their heritage back over 100,000 years? 15,000 years. Family trees back 15,000, 20,000 years. And I'm dealing with a brother now that I'm talking to, trying to get some things together, that we always talk about these Olmecs and Aztecs and all these people, and we look at these big stone heads and these things, and we think that a lot of these things came from Africa, and they didn't. And we can realize, we think some of these people are extinct, and some of these people are still here. Some of these people are still down there where you see the Olmec heads. Because everybody wants to regurgitate what they heard. Everybody always wants to regurgitate what they read. But we got people that actually go to these sites down there and actually look and see the people are still there. They're not extinct. They're the same people. And then when you look at the heads, I was learning from the brother, you look at these things, it was a whole transformation of the reason why they made the heads that way. And a lot of people don't want to look at this. So we can talk about other religions. We can talk about the truth. We can talk about these other things. But how can we tie these things together? And if you know anything about the new calendars that they gave us, the Gregorian calendar, all that, we should know that we're missing at least 500 years of history. Because he literally, I forgot the name of the king. The king literally said, I don't want to start my reign off in 986. I want to start my reign off in 1000. So he changed history. So we lost 12 years right there. But if you look at the Gregorian calendar and how that works, about all the months, technically there was 13 months. There's 13 lunar phases of the moon. The turtle island, the turtle has 13 squares on his back. Represents the 13 lunar cycles. 13 months. But they changed it to 12, and then they put it to a certain amount of days, and then they put a leap year in there to keep concocting, to keep messing us up, so we would never be able to trace our roots back. So I'm glad so getting off into that a little bit, I say these things for a reason, because there's other things out there. This is why they put the book of Esther, and it stops at chapter 10, verse 4. But it picks up in a whole nother book, in a whole nother cycle of books, in which we call the Apocrypha, which doesn't mean that it's occultish. It means it's just hidden. That means they just didn't give it to you. They didn't let you read it. But why does it stop at verse 4? Chapter 10, verse 4. Why does it stop there and then picks up in another book at verse 5? So just the first 4 verses were inspired by God. But the rest of the verses wasn't inspired by God. Quote unquote inspired. So you can go around to all these archaeological digs that are around there. You can go around to all these places. All these archaeological digs in all these places everywhere. And start digging up certain history. Every indigenous person wasn't a Hebrew. Every African is not a Hebrew. There was different tribes in different areas. So we got to learn to start putting these things together. So I don't just teach in just this one vein, but I say these things because we got to start changing these mindsets. So back to Ezekiel. I say these things for a reason. So back to Ezekiel that we get to. But not one person has got back to me yet on these giant trees. Remember in the Exodus, right? When they went over and they were going into the land of Canaan and they sent the 12 spies out. And Joshua and Caleb, only ones that came back with a good report saying we can overtake these people. But the two things that we don't want to talk about is who was the son of Anak or the Anakim people. And it said that we look like grasshoppers in their sight. How big were these people? How small is a grasshopper to you? So they said we look like grasshoppers in their sight. And then when they carried back a bushel of grapes, it took 2 men to carry back a bushel of grapes. How far back was that then? How far back was that? Because we can go to a lot of these maps where California was an island, and it only goes back to 1500. So it's not that long ago that California was an island, that they dammed up these rivers and they changed the landscape of the countries and of these continents. So some of these floods wasn't that long ago. There was many floods. This Noah's flood was this one flood that they talked that was written down. But in a lot of other people's history and in their annals and in their scrolls that they have, they reported many floods. That's why they migrated over here, because they knew and they read in the stars. But the same magi that quote unquote found Jesus or followed Jesus and knew when he was going to appear, they followed those stars for thousands of years. So they had to pass down that tradition to their sons and their sons and their sons and their sons until it was time for that star to appear where it appeared. But we call stargazing and astrology evil. We call all these things evil, but nobody wants to put these things into place where we start looking at giant trees and when this dispensation happened. And nobody wants to start reading stars because they think it's evil. Now, I was born in June. I'm a Gemini at heart. Everybody that was born around the same time, we all act alike. So is it devilish that happens, or did people turn it around? There's two sides to everything. So we look at these things and we just want to put one thing. So I talk and when I put these things down, I date these things and I put them down for a reason. So there's a record of certain things. I teach on more than just the Bible. I tie things in. I tie history in and trace things back as far as I can and do the best that I can to do it. But when you start looking at these things and wonder why you see these giant these giant petrified tree stumps, and how big were these trees? Nobody wants to talk about that. Because it throws their theology off in the Bible, because it doesn't fit in the 6,000 years that the Bible was formulated. Because there was other books out there that they took away that will put these things together, that will help our understanding. And then if we know where we came from, we will know where we're going. And then we know who we're fighting against. Then we would know who the enemy is. But we don't know who the enemy is. We don't know who Satan's seed is. And the woman's seed. We don't know the difference. Because we have different haplogroups and different bloodlines that's still in the earth today. The men of renown, still here. They are still here. Because Indians put in their records that they've seen these giants. Over here in America. With pyramids, mounds, the ones that are bigger than Egypt, Indonesia, China. See, nobody wants to talk about all these things. And when did these dispensations happen? And who are these people? And then when does it fit in the narrative of our Constantinian religion that they gave us? When did it happen? See, I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff. Because I can somewhat tie this stuff in. Because everybody has it in the community. and all these different religions that we have and tie ourselves into. Everybody got it. We got to get to the point to where we start seeing these things and just stop wrapping it around one way of thinking. That's why I said, look at the South and the forest in the South. See, everybody can come on and comment and say what they want to say, but they won't challenge me. I won't say challenge me, but they won't call me up and say, yo, D, what's up? Let's talk. Hey, what about this? When did this happen? I mean, I'm not saying everybody doesn't call me, because a lot of people do call me and we talk. That's why I'm doing this today, because people have called me. And I said we need to change our mindset, because you're still that forest in the South, in that desert, and you're not learning new things. Ain't other gods. It ain't a whole nother religion. So I stopped trying to prove everything inside of the Bible. I use other things to prove certain things in the Bible, and to prove other things, that there is one God, or the Most High God. But you still that same forest in the South. Like-minded, just like everybody else. Thinking, just like everybody else. Stubborn, just like everybody else. Firmly planted in the ways with the other masses. You're the same people. But nobody wants to come to me and talk to me. So we can post, we can say these things, but come to me and talk to me and say, yo, bro, let's talk about this. Because it's not just your opinion, or not just my opinion. But when did we start talking about these things and try to marry these things together to figure out where we all came from? Are we all indigenous? Are we all African? Did we all come over here in slave ships? Were some people here? Where there's more than one flood? What's up with these giant trees? Everything around here looks like these big giant tree stumps, and they call them mountains. But when you look at it from afar, those are tree stumps. There's no mountain that's flat on top. Not one mountain out there has a flat head on top. It's a tree stump. When did these giant trees happen? Come talk to me. And fit it into the narrative of your 66 books of the Bible that they gave you in the Council of Nicaea and these other councils that they had. Let me know. Fit it in the book. Bring your theology and all your doctrines out. Everything. Because we can talk. Let's reason together. How about that? Because then it's going to open up a can of worms, and then you have to go and dig into another hole and find more worms. You got to go down a rabbit hole, and nobody wants to go down that first hole because they see it's dark down there. But then when you go down there, you're going to put a flashlight down there. You're like, oh, junk, there's some roots down here. Who planted this tree down here? And then you got to start digging these roots up. And it's hard work to till your own ground and fertilize your own ground and plow your own field. It's hard. Hard to do that. Hit me up. I'm here anytime. Hit me up. And I'm humble. I don't put your business out in the street. I never did. You never heard me put somebody's business out in the street. Even a couple of years ago when the brother called me out my name and all this other stuff, and called me all this other stuff because I posted up and put the thing up of white Jesus. That the guy pissing on a picture of white Jesus. That was a picture of Caesar Borgia or Borgia or whatever his name was. They got mad at me. So I put up a picture of a guy pissing on white Jesus, the white Jesus that they gave you in your slave Bible. And he got mad at me and called me out my name. I didn't call you out. I still didn't put you on blast, bro. And you was a pastor. And you came at me at a cookout in front of other people, and I could have blasted you, but I did not. Because knowledge puffs up. I could have blasted you right then and there in front of everybody and stumped your whole theology and had your whole congregation messed up. But it says, do not break a bruised reed or put out a smoldering fire. That means if you got a little bit of faith, if you holding on to a little bit, don't break that reed, man. With your knowledge, don't just drop a big old book on them, boom, and here. You're going to kill people like that. You can't do that. It's about teaching people. Knowledge puffs up. And it's dangerous when you just spit knowledge and don't have no love and trying to change somebody. It says they would know us by the love that we show one another. Not by the stuff that we preach. By the love that we show one another. If you love me, feed my sheep. Visit the widow. Visit the people in jail. Visit the poor. Give them shelter. Give them clothes. If you done it to the least of these, you did it to me. See, everybody wants that easy Christian in a suit and in a nice dress and got the family guy that can pay his little tithes all the time. You want that Christian to come and join your church. But you definitely not going to go out on them streets out there and bringing that crackhead or bringing this guy or bringing that guy or bringing the bum in off the street and feed him every week. You definitely ain't doing that. Or the guy that's unemployed that don't have a license and you might have to drive him to work every day so he can feed his family and make it a little bit easier on him. Even though you take your Mondays off and you don't have a regular job, you just preach every week, twice a week. Do what you do. Do what you do. Fleecing the flock. Go ahead. Hit me up though. We can talk. And we will just talk. And we will walk through them. Line upon line. Precept upon precept. And you can hit me with all the theology that you want. I'm going to hit you with the first two laws. Love God with everything you got. And love your neighbors. You love yourself. If you don't do this, you don't fall to the whole law. That's how I know you love God. Feed my sheep. And then you wonder why I did that video on tithes a couple weeks ago. Because people don't read. And the only thing we're doing, we take it from our community every week. And people can't even feed their own family. People can't even pay their own life insurance. But your kid's going to college. You got nice cars. You got this. This is the problem. And the only thing I did, I just broke it down through the scriptures. That curse that they're talking about, it's not a curse if you don't pay your tithes. Read what that curse was. Curse had nothing to do with what they were talking about. Nothing to do with it. The curse was a vow that they made. Malachi lived the same time as Ezekiel lived. And he was telling them the oath that they made, that they were supposed to be taking care of God's house. And they were giving it to somebody else that wasn't even an Israelite. They put it in his storehouse because the crooked priest and a crooked pastor built a storehouse onto the house of God. And they were filling his storehouse and not God's storehouse to feed the widow. What the first fruits were for. And the tithes were really for the priest and for the widow and for the poor people. And for the stranger that came to visit your city. It's never money. Never money. Never money. That's why he said, go sell your tithe for money. Go to it and travel. And then go buy your tithe back. And then eat it. So you eating money. Even when, quote unquote, Jesus said, go, you tithe of your cumin and your mint, or your cumin and your mint. But you omit the weightier matters of the law, like love, kindness, grace. You tithe, not of your money, but you tithe of your cumin and your mint. Those are spices and oil. Had nothing to do with money, but you still take it from your people. I'm not saying don't give to your local church or your local pastor or whatever. I'm not saying that. But there's a way you do it. But we fleecing the flock all day long. Come at me. I'm tired. Tired of seeing our people the way they are. Tired of it. Oh, he's just a Facebook preacher. Okay. But you don't know. I don't have to brag of what I do. I don't have to brag what rooms I walk in. What offices I walk in. What courtrooms I walk in. And get people off and then start their life over again and bring people to drug rehab. I don't have to brag about that stuff. But in certain courtrooms, my name and the people that I'm with carries weight. I can sign people out and they would turn them over to me and saying, look, it's up to you. I trust you that you're going to help this young man and get him on track. You're going to help this young lady and get them on track. I ain't saying it's 100%. 99% of the people that we help, they get help and they change. You don't want to help yourself? Oh, well. But at least the judge trusts me and saying, look, yo, give me a chance, man. Give me a chance. Let me go help my brother. But then it's my responsibility when they used to sleep on my couch, when they brought bed bugs in my house, when I had to take them to work every single day. Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. That means sometimes you got to open up your heart and open up your house and let people look at you and the way that you live. So they had to see me live. They had to see me go to work every day, 5 o'clock in the morning. They had to see me and my wife arguing. Me and my wife, see, this is where people get wrong at when they start talking about marriage and they start talking about this other stuff. Nobody want to talk about the ups and downs. But when I counsel people, I counsel you for the ups and downs. I counsel you for the valleys. I don't just counsel you for the mountaintop experience for Valentine's Day and for your anniversaries and when you go on trips and when everything's hunky-dory. I counsel you for those low points to when you can't stand that person and you want to strangle that person and you want to push that person out in the street because it's the test of faith. It's the test of time. Me and my wife ain't still together just because of love. It ain't just because of love. We have a purpose together. We have a calling together. And it don't work without her. She has no purpose without me, and I can't fulfill my purpose without her. So who's more important? I need my wife to fulfill my purpose, and she needs me to have a purpose. Remember, she's my rib. She was taken from me. So without me, she would just be a bone laying on the ground. But the rib is the only regenerative bone that regenerates itself in the body. It regenerates itself. So when she's put back in my side, she recompletes me. That means I'm a whole person. And she covers, the ribs cover all my major organs, my lungs, my heart. It covers it. It protects all my vital organs. So without her, I have no covering. I have no protection. So she covers me too. But I provide a sanctuary for her. I provide a covering for her. It says, see, we want to look at this thing as a chauvinistic thing all the time. It's not. My job is to protect her. If a robber knocked on the door right now, banged on the door and broke in the house, I'm going to expect her to jump in front of the bullet for me? Or she going to look at me like, yo, bro, what you going to do? That's my job. So is that gender or what do you want to call it? Come on, man. But we want to get stuck on these gender roles all the time. Yeah, sis, I'm trying to tell what life is all about because this is real. It's real, and we don't want to talk about that. So when you come and counsel with me, y'all going through your marriage and going through this, that, and the other, I'm gonna hit you with it, bro. What you doing, sis? What you doing? You kicking this man back in every time he make a mistake. Let that man make a mistake. He got that's why he got a big back and strong muscles is to get up. It says a righteous man falls 7 times, 70, but he keeps getting back up. He's righteous because he's trying. That means a man falls and he keeps getting up. So if he falls that many times, that means he has to get up that many times. So that means he's trying, but you kicking his back in. Stop kicking that man's back in. But brothers, what are you willing to give up for your wife? What life are you willing to give up? What you willing to give up? I'm still the man. You're going to still be the man, but eventually you're going to run her up out of here. So I know people got different beliefs. I know people got different things in this, that, and the other. But certain principles, you can still look at this thing. But you can believe what you want. But start tying this history together. How about that? Start tying it back. Reason why some people have 20,000 years in their history, and this Bible only goes back 20,000 years. 6,000 years, and other people's history goes back 20,000 years. Why is half the book in here and the other half is in that book? What are they hiding? We keep getting this thing because we still got this same mentality, the same thought process that they put in you. And it's bred down from generation to generation, and we don't think different. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, our community still the same way. South side of the tracks, north side of the tracks, east side, west side. One side looks good, other side looks horrible. Ain't nothing changing. That's why it says, drop your word from on high and say what I tell you to say. But you worried about everybody else. You worried about what everybody else is talking about, but you ain't listening. That's why he said that. Drop your word from on high. Set your face towards the south, which is a desert and a dry place. Set your face towards the south. And the forest that's in the south. A forest. You got a forest in the desert. Stubborn people that's standing tall, standing on their business, standing on doing what they feel like doing, and ain't changing in a dry desert place, ain't getting fed, ain't got no nourishment. No water in the desert, but you planted your tree there. How smart are you? That's why the Lord says, turn your face towards the south and start prophesying there. Start preaching towards the south. Start preaching towards these people that are stubborn and set in their ways. Because a forest just ain't one tree. A forest is many trees. So there's a whole bunch of people in the same predicament you at that ain't changing. You standing next to another guy that's thinking just like you, going nowhere, starving, just like you, but you listening to him. Ain't nothing changed. But you a forest. I'm a tree. Yeah, you a tree that's dry. Ain't bearing no fruit, bro. You a tree. Thinking just like everybody else, dying in the forest, in the wilderness, just like everybody else. Out there on the street corners, just like everybody else. Doing the same old thing you doing day in, day out, ain't nothing changing. Marriage falling apart. Family falling apart. This falling apart. Ain't got no friends. Can't nobody talk to you. Because you thinking like everybody else in that desert. You a forest in the desert. You a tree planted in the desert. But we supposed to be planted by the rivers of living water. A tree planted by the rivers of living water. That your fruit will remain. And in your season, not somebody else's season. You square and you trying to put yourself into a round peg. Wonder why it ain't happening. As a community, we've been too comfortable. Too comfortable. But we also scared to talk to our people too. There's plenty of times I done walked up in gang dens, handing out flyers and handing out food and baskets and food trays and food and clothes and all these things, knocking on doors. And they looked at me. They didn't know who I was, but I wasn't scared to talk to my brother. I seen them all. I pulled up and it was nighttime. They had no light, nothing. Pulled up, walked right up, knocked on the door. And the brother's like, yo, who you? Guns out, pulled his jacket off, had the gun out, ready to shoot. And I was like, bro, I'm just here handing out food, my brother. This your house? Yeah. Why you coming here? You hear that little baby in there crying? This food is for her. If you love me, feed my sheep. Then that man changed his life around. He's no longer in the gang no more because I fed his niece and fed his little sister and fed his mother. That he was selling drugs and still couldn't provide food on the table for his family. On his way to jail, on his way to die. Feed my sheep. Guns out. I'm not scared to talk to my people. I mean, the Lord says, make your calling and election sure. When it's my time to go, it's my time. Now, I ain't going to be stupid. And I was cordial with the brother. I said, brother, ain't no harm here, man. I didn't know. I walked up in on the set and I had all black on. Had the wrong colors on, had all black on at nighttime. And they didn't know who I was. And I was kind of, walking kind of cock diesel or whatever. I got, I got big back and broad shoulders and stuff. So I looked like I was walking in trouble. Popped the trunk Pop the trunk. Next thing I hear is click, click. But the brother changed his life because I fed his little niece. Thought I was there for trouble. Walked up in that piece, didn't know who I was. When I popped the trunk, they got scared, pulled their guns out. Then they seen the bags of food that I had. And that brother was hungry. He ate more than his little sister did. He was hungry. If you love me, feed my sheep. It says they will know you by the love that you show one another. That man changed his life because I didn't come up there preaching to him. I fed him first. It says, what good is it to tell a man, oh, I'll pray for you and I'll be with you and I'll do the thing that I can for you, but go pray and go and be well. But that man walks away hungry. What good did you do for that brother? What good did you do for him? Nah, that man ain't gonna listen to you because his belly growling. Man's hurting. No father. Generations of no fathers in a home. Then he sees a real man pull up and bring some food to the house and talk to him like a real man. Well, I can do this. That man making more money than I'm making right now. Because he was a skilled mason. Didn't even know. But he had a felony. So we talked to some people, talked to a couple people, got his record expunged and got everything. He back working for the union again. Making good money, making over 100 grand. Foreman. Former gang member. Ready to shoot me. This is the reason why it says study to show yourself approved unto God, not unto man. Not listening to the precepts of men. Because when you walk into the Lord ain't always going to deliver you out of the den. Sometimes he's going to make you go through the lion's den. And I walked right up into the den in all black. And they had on all red. And I'm like, oh boy, what did I do? But when I walked up in there with them, with that food, and I came home and dropped to my knees and said, thank you, Lord, it wasn't my time. Heard the guns click. Click, click. Put one in the chamber. But that's why it says make your call and election sure, because everybody doesn't have that grace. I had that grace on my life that I was able to walk into the den of thieves and go and feed somebody and not be scared of my own brothers and sisters and not be scared of my own community. See, I didn't see a gang member. I see the good father. I seen a good brother. I seen a good husband. I seen a mason that now he's able to feed his family. And now he moved them out. Got a bigger house than we got right now. This was about 8 years ago. Yes. Married now. All of his kids are under his roof now. And I'm not putting a feather in my cap. So, because I'm not bragging, I'm just using this as an example. Because we want to make everybody come up into the church building and preach to them like that. But sometimes he says, go ye therefore. Go into the highways and the byways, into the hedges. Go out there. And you're going to get scratched into the thorns and the thick. You're going to get scratched in that wilderness place. Scared to death. Scared to death. Knees was knocking. If I didn't gain weight, they would have heard my bones knocking. But I got fat on my knees right now, so they ain't hear my bones knocking. Scared to death. But I looked that brother in the eye, and he seen the compassion I have for him and say, no, bro, this ain't you. See, when God made us, he made us perfect. He made us in his image. He didn't make that man a gang member. He didn't make that man a killer. But I knew who I was. So yes, I talk about being a Hebrew. I talk about being this. I talk about being indigenous. I talk about being that. I talk about all of it because it's all relevant. But when you get yourself stuck in these 66 books and that's it, that's when we got the problem. Because it talks about other books. It talks about Ido the seer. It talks about Samuel the seer. It talks about all these other books. Talks about the book of James. It talks about all these other books where you can start tying in history and then start tying things in. When California was an island, 1500 years, in the year 1500. How do we know? How do I know that? That means I was reading something else that somebody else might not have been reading. See, I'm not always called to talk to the churchanized person. You all churchanized right now, so I can't talk to everybody. So the sermon that the title and the way I'm talking now, I don't talk like this when I'm behind a pulpit. But when I go to the homeless shelter, I talk a little different because I know those people are on their last legs. I know those people just almost about to give up on life. So I got to talk to them a little different. I got to talk to them a little stern. I got to make my voice a little bit deeper for them. And saying, bro, stand up, put your chest up, put your chin up. The way that God created you, he created you perfect, a man in his own image. But he didn't create you this person. How the world, how now that you're tainted by the world, he didn't create you that guy. He didn't create you the bad father, the bad man, this person. He didn't create you this person. So I speak different in different aspects. Turtle Island, yes, yep. I talked to my man. His name is Norris Branham. He's Turtle Gang Entertainment. That's my boy. I grew up with him. So he taught me a whole lot about different histories and about a whole bunch of other stuff. About this land, other lands. See, a lot of people don't know this land is ancient, man. This land has a lot to it and where we come from. I get it. But a lot of people can't tie all the, we just too worried about the by and by. We still got that same mentality, them same trees that's in the forest, in a desert, in a dry place that ain't trying to change their way of thinking. And then wonder why our communities are still the same way. Still out here dying, still out here starving. Can't pay for health insurance. Young men ain't got no trades. Wonder why they get mad at everything you say because they don't know how to act. They weren't taught to be a man. And sometimes you got to burst things off. But they quick to fight. They quick to shoot. Because they're walking in their emotions all the time. There's plenty of times when my pops grabbed me and jacked me up. My older brothers grabbed me and jacked me up. My cousins, my uncles, a couple of them jokers, I seen them go to work. I seen them with their wives. I seen them be successful, which put a work ethic in me. I seen the deacon in my church that gave me a job, that he had his own business, and still give that man praise to this day because I started working at the age of 12, and that work ethic still carries over today. His name was Jim Hurt, and worked in his shop at the age of 12. I remember that summer when the mom knocked on my door and says, "Do you want a job?" And I said yes. Had a job ever since. Since the age of 12, I have been on unemployment maybe 6 months out of my whole life. 3 of those months was COVID. The other 3 months is that my job closed up, and then I went to school for the other 2 months. So 1 month I was out of work my whole life since the age of 12. Because of that work ethic, because of that man, I seen that man, how he was a man, a God, he was a husband. He owned his own business, and he put his people to work, and he showed me the work ethic. And to this day, I still carry it at the age of 53. I still carry that same work ethic that I learned at the age of 12 of being meticulous at my job. And this is the reason why. And the way I carry myself and the way I speak when I go to interviews and the way I dress. I literally got hired at certain jobs because the way I dress, that I look, and I look like somebody that needed or was going somewhere, and they was like, "Who is this guy wanting to work here? We need brothers here. We need guys like this, upstanding, can speak clearly, knows how to express himself, ain't stuttering, knows how to pronunciate his words, but think you talking white, but no, I'm talking clearly and talking proper." It's crazy. Drop your word from on high. Stop being scared to speak the truth. and stop prophesying. Think you prophesying, but you prophesying. Everybody ain't getting a house. Everybody not getting a brand new car. Everybody not getting $1 million. Everybody can't afford that $1,000 line to put a seed on it. Take that same gospel out into a third world country in the woods and tell that man he's going to get a Mercedes. They living in huts, in teepees. Living in mud huts. What's the chances that man going to get a Mercedes? Take that same gospel and put it there. But I can tell that man, keep working and you can buy a cow and then you can start a farm and then you can start planting your own farm and growing your own food. I can tell him that. You give a man a seed, he can plant his own food. I can teach another man how to dig a ditch and take care of his family, and then in 6 months a harvest comes up. I can tell him how to do that, though. I can't tell him how to get a Mercedes in the forest. This is the problem with the prosperity gospel. It's not gospel. Come on, man. So this is the reason why I say what I say. Drop your word from on high. Stop being scared what people are going to say about you and how people are going to talk about you. And he says, behold, I will kindle a fire in you. I'm going to put this fire in you. I'm going to put this fire in you. Nobody else. I didn't learn this from theology. I didn't feel this fire from theology. I learned by studying to show myself approved unto God because I wanted to know the truth. Something wasn't adding up. So I wanted to know the truth. So I had to study unto God, not unto man, not to get a license. I didn't even want this license. I didn't even want the title because I didn't want to be like everybody else. I was already doing the work. They added the title to me. I was already doing it. They just added it to me. The characteristics were already there. But they knew there was the people that was mentoring me knew there were certain places that I had to go and certain rooms I had to walk into. So I would need certain credentials. But other than that, God was my credential. My track record was my credential. They knew me as the orange and apple and the sandwich guy. Because I was out there not selling oranges and apples and sandwiches. I was out there giving apples and oranges out there to people that was hungry. Going down to the train station with bags of food, handing it out. They were sleeping in the police station and sleeping on benches. See, this gospel that I preach ain't chargeable to nobody. I don't need to ask for a seed and put a seed on it. I don't need that. Because the Lord provides for me. He's my Jehovah Jireh. My provider. I got a job and I go to work. Paul says, I work day and night that this gospel will not be chargeable to you. He wasn't a hireling. I'm not a hireling. You can't hire me to get your agenda across. That some of you guys are part of a boule. Doing the devil's bidding. Come get it. You really love him? You really love the Most High? You really love God? Feed his sheep. Feed his people. The tithe was never for what y'all using it for. You got rich. Building all these big old churches. He never told you to do that. Now, if it comes with it, fine. Never told you to do that. Never told you to do that. But you fleecing the flock. Not saying don't give. Not saying don't give. Because it says purpose in your heart what you shall give. Not when the organ starts. Not when somebody starts singing. Not when somebody starts praying. Not when you start feeling good. Not under compulsion. but purpose in your heart what you shall give, because the Lord loves a cheerful giver. That means decide beforehand what you shall give. Decide beforehand what you shall give. But I guess we still going to Jerusalem to have the feast. So we got to sell our tithe on a plane. So we go on a plane trip over to Jerusalem and then buy our tithe back. We got to do better. So you guys can keep calling me. You guys can keep posting about me. You guys can keep talking about me. And I will answer your call every single time you call me. But I'm not gonna take it easy on you. We're gonna talk in love, though. We're gonna talk in love, and we're here to teach. And some of you guys are way older than me and been in this ministry way longer than me. Been in the ministry way longer than me. But it's the reason why your benches is empty. It's a reason. You say what you want to say. You can believe what you want to believe. Oh, that book isn't canonical. That book doesn't belong. Who said that? Where anywhere did the Most High that God said we only supposed to read 66 books? Who authorized it? Holman? Martin Luther? Have you read and seen who these people are and who they belong to and who they work for? King James? Why did King James come over to America and go to Ethiopia and take their scrolls, and then 3 years later he comes out with his own Bible? Nobody still wants to tell me about that. That King James came to America. He was a Moor working for England and Scotland and Ireland. See, nobody wants to look up black nobility in England a couple hundred years ago. Nobody wants to look this up. Less than 1,000 years ago, nobody wants to look this up. Black nobility in England and see who these people were and what the agenda was. All skin folk wasn't kinfolk. Some of them people were mercenaries, bro. They got hired by certain people to take over certain lands, to colonize certain people. So certain skin folk help colonize skin folk for the dollar. And for land and for territories. And then they ended up getting kicked out. Then they got displaced and they were put in slavery. Some of them. After they did their bidding. So we still talking about church history? Or we want to talk about the Council of Nicaea and all these other councils that they had? At 70 AD, 325 AD, and 103 AD, when they gave us the Gregorian calendar and changed everything into 12 months and into 12 lunar cycles to throw you off. Cutting out people's history, cutting you off. Psalms 83. They wanted to cut you off from a people, from your heritage, from your God, from your language, from everything of which you know. They conspired against you to cut everything off of who you were. And then they replaced us with themselves and wrote themselves in and act like it's them. But in your schools, you never heard about the Khazarian Empire. You never heard of the Khazars. They never took, and they were the biggest empire at that point in time, conquering everybody. Bunch of nomads just beating people up. And then they started getting war and everybody started conquering them. So they needed a religion. So they picked Judaism. It was either pick Christianity or Muslim. They didn't want to pick either one of them because they didn't want to pick sides because they knew if they had to fight for one of the sides. So they jumped on the fence and picked Judaism, which is not even the Torah. It's the Talmud. And then you wonder why there's wars going on over there because they ain't the people of the land. But if we bless them, we'll be blessed. If you curse them, you'll be cursed. They not the people of the book. They gave us the okie doke hundreds of years ago. That's why they changed the name to black and the Negro and the African American and mulatto and all these other things. They changed their name. Why ain't white people that come over here from Africa called African Americans? It's crazy. We're in Africans that come over here called African American. They're Nigerian. They're South African. Libyans. We the only people that ain't got no land, no flag, no heritage, no this, no that, but we do. Why? Because they took all these books out and didn't want to tell you. Old Behind Bible, 1875, is different from this book that was published. Because if you read the other half of Esther, you'll wonder why she's praying the way she's praying. That's the prayer that they cut out. But you won't find it in this book because it stops at chapter 10, verse 4. Where's the other verses in the other chapters? Why did they stop at chapter 10, verse 4 in here? Because they never wanted to let you know who they were talking about. That's why. But we want to talk about biblical history and don't want to tie all this other history in. Who are the people that conspired? Who are all the nations? Did you ever read the nations that were conspiring against us in Psalms 83? And then you look those names up and wonder who they are? Those people are still here today. But you don't want to go look at it. They need to erase everything. Everybody that was indigenous over here was not worshiping the Most High. And everybody wasn't Hebrews. Everybody was doing their own thing over here. But we don't want to trace certain people back. I know some people are going to call me crazy and don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But you still have not tied in giant trees into this Bible yet. You can't even tell me what the gap theory part is. You won't even tell me how Cain found a wife. I guess he took one of his sisters with him, right? But he says he went to the land and found a wife. And went into a city. And who he built the city with? Was that all of Adam's and Eve's kids? How long were they there? Have you ever looked at when he says be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth? It didn't say plenish, it said replenish. Who got wiped out the first time? When darkness was over the face of the deep. When the earth was without form and void. That means the earth was in confusion. But I thought when God created something, he created it perfect. Why was the earth in confusion? What happened between creation and that point in time? Who was Eve talking to? Come on, man. Believe what you want. But I'm unlearned because I didn't go to school of theology. I didn't go to Princeton Theology School. I don't have my doctorate. Because I ain't trying to be like y'all. I got offers to start churches, to take over churches, to co-pastor with churches. I had mad offers and still got certain offers on the table. But I'm not doing something just to do it. Just to have a name, just to sit in the front with everybody else. To have a name amongst a hierarchy. That when I walk into a building, people recognize me. I can care less. I can care less. Got so many people that want to say certain things and do certain things. I don't say it. But some people only want me because the fire that I got. And they know I'm going to draw some people. But people that they don't want because they didn't know they have to go to work. They know they're going to have to work with these people. They know they're going to have to watch these people. They know they're going to have to coach these people. They know they have to teach these people. So they want churchanized people. They want churchanized people that they can just join from church to church and hop and know already how to dance. And when the music starts playing, they know how to do their two-step. That's the type of new members that they want. They want somebody else's members. Just recycling the same old junk. Same old stuff. But y'all dancing around with your booties and your breasts hanging out, tight pants and all this other junk going on in front of people. Got funny people up front saying that. I'm not telling you not to love people, but they shouldn't be up front teaching people. Shouldn't be. And you got these blogs and you got these programs that people just don't want to come out and say it. Whether you believe in the word or not, but the program was saying, if you believe in the Bible and you're teaching the word, what does the word say? Is homosexuality a sin? And everybody else had a political answer. Well, if we do that, is it yes or no? Should they be preaching? Should they be teaching your kids? Should they be leading praise and worship? Knowing that it's open. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that falls or somebody that makes a mistake. I'm talking about somebody that's openly doing this. Say what you want. But none of y'all gave a straight answer. You danced around that thing like James Brown and Fred Flintstone, Twinkle Toes. Danced right over it. You hate me if you want. I love everybody, man. I love y'all. And I want us to do better. I care. And then we wonder why people ain't changing. Then you wonder why they hated the prophets in the Bible. The true prophets in the Bible, they hated their guts. Sawing them cats in half, wanting to stone them jokers. Jezebel had all them jokers up in caves hiding. Scared to death. After Elijah burnt up the other guy's altar and burnt up the altar and sent the fire down from heaven and embarrassed the other prophets of Baal, Jezebel's prophets, she said she was going to kill him. After he done did that, he ran and was scared of Jezebel and ran up in the cliff and was scared to death of her. After he done did this great thing. After he done embarrassed the prophets. Then he going to go run. You just defeated the people. You just did what you had to do. And right after that, I'm go kill that joker. He runs. I'm scared for my life. The same God that burnt that offering up can't burn them up. So then you needed a real man, Jehu, to go up there and throw her soft husband down, her eunuchs, and her. Kill this joker, man. He's soft. Leading my people. Can't even stand up for himself. Talking through his wife. He a punk. Oh, is there peace, Jehu? No, it ain't peace, bro. I see what you're doing. You leading my people down a dirt road. You would lead my people in the desert. Ain't no water out there. There is no peace right now. Killed that joker. And then the people Jezebel was with that she thought had her back, they threw her down. That she used to order around. I got you, Jezebel. Their own eunuchs threw her down. Men that can't produce. Eunuchs. She hung around men that could not produce, that had no testosterone. Threw her down. Turned on her in a second. Because when a real man of God stood up, who's going to carry the banner? Who's going to carry this flag? The Lord says, I looked all over and couldn't find nobody. Who is going to do what the Lord tells me to do? I couldn't find nobody. Is it you? Is it you? Is it me? Who's going to get my brothers off the street? Who's going to get my sisters off the street? Then we wonder why our churches ain't changing, because we scared to call out what it is. Being a thief is the same thing. Adulterer, same thing. Homosexuality, same thing. Why do you think Paul got mad at the people of Corinth when that dude was sleeping with his father's wife? Nobody did nothing. He wrote that letter. He says, yo, y'all don't see, you ain't gonna say nothing? Oh, it'll pass, just let it go. Paul was like, nah, if you do this, a little leaven spoils a whole loaf. If you do this, everybody else is gonna think that they can get away with it. Call this joker out. Call him out and say, nah, bro, this ain't right. Either repent or get out of here. You was scared. Scared to say something. But this man was sleeping with his stepmom. Nobody in the church said nothing. No deacon, no pastor, no prophet, no bishop. All Episcopals, all elders, all overseers. Nobody said nothing. Paul had to write a letter. Said, deal with that. Handle that. You give him a chance. He said, we don't love you, but you're not going to stand in front of my people, bro. Not prancing around. No, you're not doing that. Go sit down next to Deacon Anderson over there. He's going to teach you how to be a man. He's going to teach you how to sit. He's going to teach you how to walk. He's going to teach you how to talk. So there's no distinction. I understand you didn't grow up with a father, bro. But right now, I'm your mentor. Sit next to me. I ain't putting you in the back. You're going to sit right up next to me. We're not going to put you in the back. We love you, brother. We're not going to embarrass you. That's why I called you in the office and want to talk to you privately. But we can't have you up there. But you're going to sit next to me, or you're going to sit next to Deacon over here. Mimic what he does. He's faithful to his girl, faithful to his wife. His kids are upstanding. He raised a good family. He got gray hairs. He got a little experience under his belt. Sit next to him for a little bit and learn the ways of how a man's supposed to act. That's all. You're not kicking him out the church. You're not downgrading him. You're teaching him how to be a man. My mom couldn't teach me how to be a man. Because when I started to become a teenager and started getting muscles and my voice started getting deep and started getting a little bit of hair on my face and girls started paying attention, started smelling myself. Mom couldn't tell me nothing. So who did it take? My father and my older brothers. Because when my parents got divorced, then my older brothers had to step up. My older brother said, bro, don't ever talk to your mother like that again. And he said it nice and calm. He pulled me in the room, but he was stern. He says, bro, don't ever talk to mommy like that again. Ever since then, never disrespected her ever again in my life. I needed a man to teach me how to be a man and teach me how to respect women. If I was going to talk to her like that, I was going to talk to every other woman like that and not learn respect. So that taught me respect of women. That taught me. My brother, my older brother. But you still want to be a tree just like everybody else in a dry desert place in the South. Drop your word from on high and start speaking what the word of the Lord is telling you to say. Because this flaming fire that he's talking about, and all the flesh shall see that I am the Lord that kindled and this fire cannot be quenched. That he says that I, the Lord, behold, I kindle the fire in you and it shall devour every green tree. Just because it's green don't mean that it's producing fruit. I will devour every green tree and every dry tree. It's green, but it's dry. I'm going to devour it. He says, I'm going to start this fire in you. And I'm going to devour every tree. I'm burning up everything. Because these trees are planted in the desert. I'm here. He says, with a flaming flame. What is a flaming flame? That means a flame that is relentless. It's a consuming fire. It's a barrage of a fire. One right after another. Boom, boom, boom. Keep coming. Burn them. Burn them. Hotter, hotter, hotter. He ain't purged yet. Put him back in the fire again. That metal still got some impurities in it. Put it back in the fire again. He did this. Because he know you ain't purified yet. He did this. But nobody want to tie this stuff in. Nobody want to talk because everybody's scared. Everybody worried about what their peers going to think. Everybody's scared. I'm not saying don't do things in decent and order, but you see something out of order, put it back in order. Huh? The apostle establishes the church. The bishop oversees it. He's the manager, sees everything what the apostle established. The prophet keeps everything in line and keeps the teachings what the apostle established in the church. And the pastor's supposed to teach the flock. And when they're out of line, the prophet is supposed to grab the pastor saying, yo, that's not what the apostle taught, bro. You out of line. And you scared to talk to your people and say that you out of line. Then you wonder why Paul set the church up the way he did with elders in the church. You wonder why. He set it up that way because he knew some of y'all jokers was going to start whining and say what you want to say, and there was nobody to check you. So that's why it was set up that way. You can believe what you want. You can believe in white Jesus all you want. You can believe in this all you want. You can believe in Yeshua, Yahushai, Yahweh. You can believe what you want. You a Hebrew, you a black Hebrew. They not the Jews. They the white Jews. They Khazars. You can believe all. You can believe it all. What's the truth? What's the truth? And then why are your people still the way they are? Why is the community still the same way? They're definitely bringing it down because too many people take parts of the Bible too literal. Agree with you. I agree with you. And what I'm reading out now out of Ezekiel 20 is a parable. See, because I read other books and I've seen other things and I've got other things that I'm understanding what I'm reading now. That I'm not just regurgitating what my grandmother taught me, what my grandfather taught me, what my mother taught me, what my parents taught me, and what I grew up in, what the Baptist church taught me. I'm just not reading and doing the exact same thing. I have a foundation, yes. But there's other things that belong to this thing that can start opening up other things that you can go out there and grab your people and save your community and do things and change a life. But we just want to keep preaching to the choir. Go ahead. I get amen. Amen. God is good all the time. All the time. God is good. Oh, here come the organ. Time for the money. Let's get it. Oh, this was a good week. The people's hearts was given today. And they go home struggling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's the right way to go. Who's taking care of the widows? Who's taking care of the poor people? Oh, we can't change everybody. You can change someone. You can change somebody. Just like I tell this government, change one city in America. Just one. That's how I know it's a design. Because every city in America is designed the same way. North side, south side, east side, west side. Divided by a train track, a tree line, or a highway. Every city in America is built this way. Who's on the south side? Who's on the west side? The north side and the east side is always nice. Every city in America. That's how I know that's how I know it's the same thing. Social redlining. They did it to us and still doing it to us. Not saying we can't rise above it and we don't need to police our own because we do. And not saying bad things don't happen to good people. I'm not saying that either. But I am saying something got to change. Change. You might not be able to save your whole community. You might not be able to save every man or every woman or every family. But you can change one. You can change one. You can change one person. You can change one person. Just one. You can change one family. Just take one family and set them on a hill. One family. One family. And get them ahead and teach them how to stay ahead. One family. Because our government ain't going to take one city and fix it. Just take one city and fix it. One city and fix it. Just one. But here come election. And you know what's coming down the pipe. Racism, police shootings, a bombing, a mass shooting, school shooting, Trump, Biden, Obama, Michelle. It's coming. You know it's coming. It's coming right down the pipe. And it's going to be the same thing over and over again. And they're going to put you in the car, get your vote. Soon as the voting booth closes, they're going to kick you out the car and nothing's going to change until the next 4 years. But you let them up in your pulpits. You let these people talk to you every single year and nothing changes in your community. But they come and beg for your vote. Nah, bro. Sign this contract. It's saying if you don't do this in the first year that you're in office, you will impeach yourself. You will resign from your station. How about that? We did it in Trenton. We marched in Trenton and got laws changed. Not saying every protest and every march is good and bad or whatever, but during the Poor People's Campaign, we changed laws. I've done it. Yeah, them jokes is dancing. Yeah, baby, some of them seats ain't even filled no more. But they're going to keep doing the same thing. Here it come. And your community is the only one that's last place. We last place citizens. The Mexican passes, the Indian passes, all these people passes. We still in the same position. I've been on here for an hour and a half. I need to get off this joker. I'm done. So just wanted to read that. Ezekiel 20:45 to 49. The forest in the south. Drop your word from on high. Speak with the word of the Lord that God is putting in your heart. And speak it unadulterated. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't worry about what other people are going to think. Don't worry about what your peers are going to think. Don't worry about what these other pastors are going to say. In these other ministries and these other associations. Because half these people are doing the people's bidding anyway. They're doing the government's bidding anyway. They're not doing it for the people of God. And some of y'all out there for the name. And I'm going to say it. I don't care. Appreciate you too. Y'all know what y'all doing, man. Y'all know what y'all doing. You know exactly what you're doing. You don't care. Every Sunday you're going to grab that check, though. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. If somebody didn't want to invite me to their church and preach at their church because they thought I was going to talk like this. I got etiquette. I got church etiquette. I know I'm not. I don't speak this in front of congregations and know how to say certain. I don't do that. It says don't break a bruised reed and put out a smoldering fire. I know not to do that. I know not to hurt people. I know not to kill their faith so that they don't believe in nothing. I know not to do that. I know how to encourage people, but this is something different because we can go back little by little and look at exactly what we're looking at. Go look at the video I did on tithing and see if we didn't break that down verse by verse and find out what it really was and what that curse was. Had nothing to do with Malachi. Nothing. And you will not be cursed if you don't give your church all your money. Sorry. Or even a tenth. You won't be cursed. You won't be cursed. You won't. Put me to the test. Don't pay your tithe and see what kind of curses come upon you. You getting cursed and you paying them. You ain't doing that now and you paying them. You ain't getting blessed now. That hundredfold blessing ain't come yet. 1 or 2 people maybe over the past 15 years got blessed, had a miracle happen or happenstance, or where your hundredfold blessing at? That you won't have room enough to receive. You won't have room enough to receive. That means you're going to be overflowing. Where's it at? Prosperity gospel is a lie. Always been one. Because it don't apply to everybody. So keep sowing. Go ahead. Just look it up. The thing you got to do is go to YouTube and look up, is tithing biblical or is tithing biblical or required? Just look it up and just keep going and look at everything. Don't look at one thing, look at everything. And then start studying for yourself. Read what it says for yourself. Say what it is. I love y'all. I love my family. I love my community. And I'm going to do everything I can to help them. And stop letting these people drown. And being duped for years and years and years. And nothing's changing. Tired of it. It's hurtful. To drive down the street and seeing my people hurting. Look in their eyes and they have no hope. Tired of it. And we supposed to have the answer? We supposed to be a light in dark places? We supposed to be that tower up on a hill that people can run to it for help? Just drive down the street and look in people's eyes and see if you have any conviction in your heart. Just see. Go ahead. And if you don't feel nothing, you're dead inside. You a painted on white sepulcher full of dead man's bones. Go right ahead. And when it rains, you're going to be butt naked because all that paint going to wash off you. Go right ahead. You fake. And you painted on white sepulcher. Go right ahead. And I'm not saying all. I'm not saying everyone. I'm not saying all pastors in churches or ministries. I'm not saying that. It's a lot of y'all, though. It's a lot. Make a difference in somebody else's life and not just your own. Stop feeding your own ego, because when it's all said and done, you're going to have to answer. What did you do with the talents that I gave you? Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. Go right ahead. I can't take it no more. We go out there a lot and we help and feed people and help people and feed and try to. It's hurtful to look in their eyes. I had to stop going out there because I was becoming depressed, because we have to put these people in a different state. And then people are scared to say these things in public because they're worried about the backlash they're going to get. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. We forgot who we were. Jesus reminded who that Samaritan woman was. She said he said you were supposed to be the keepers of the wall. You forgot who you were because you started mingling with everybody else. And you forgot who you were. You forgot you were supposed to be the guardians. It's hard to see this. It's hard to see it. It's hard. Not anymore. It's time. And a lot of people got resources to do something and help. And I ain't talking about just a couple coats or a blanket. I'm talking about you can house some people. All y'all jokers got 501c3, which means you have the ability to house people. I ain't saying make it a home, but you got the ability to turn your dwelling place into a shelter. You have the ability to turn your church into a Jerusalem, the city of peace. And you won't do it because you're worried about putting something you worried about that you got to have to be there or feed them and worry about if they're going to take something. You don't love your people, man. You don't. But you got the ability to do it, though. You definitely have the ability to house, to give these people shelter when it's cold blue out there. You got the ability. and just doing it for a couple weeks at a time, yeah, whatever. But you're gonna do it all season? Mm-hmm. Go right ahead. I love y'all. God bless you. Been on there for almost 2 hours. Shama, God is with you.